So soil blocks. I love soil blocks. They grow such healthier transplants compared to certainly egg cartons and yogurt cups, but even cell trays really don't compare. They grow such healthier seedlings because there's more soil per volume, there's more nutrients per volume as a result. And because they're air on this side, they never get root bound. They air prune when the roots hit the air, they turn around and go the other way. And there are lots of different ways to soil block. There's huge 4-inch soil blockers. These are the 2-inch soil blockers. We also have mini soil blockers, and I'll share with you a little bit about each one. But first, the soil that you use, make sure that it has a high content of either sphagnum moss or coconut coir. And those two things make very compactable soils that still have plenty of pore space, plenty of air space. So you can see this is a dense little block and I'm totally throwing it around and it's just fine. And that wouldn't happen if it had a higher percentage of vermiculite or perlite. And so it's having a mix, and you'll know right away when you are soil blocking if it's going to be a good mix for you or not. And you want it really wet. If it's a really nice mix with a high coconut coir or sphagnum content, you can have it as wet as you like and it'll still make nice blocks. What we aim for at Fruition is, you can see I'm squeezing it and it's not dripping any soil, but perhaps you can see there's a little bit of moisture in between my fingers. So it's squeezing out, it's quite wet. It's more moist really than we need for a cell tray. And that moisture is what helps really compact and make dense, beautiful, perfect soil blocks. So check out, this 2-inch soil block. You can see on these ones, it has a little white dimple. And here I'll take it out to show you. They pop right out. And it's basically this little thing that pops in and out and has this little dimple in the top, a dibble if you will, if we were in Britain. And that dibble will translate into this wonderful little nest that we can tuck seeds into. And we also have, you can see on these lower two, those big plastic black squares. And when I put soil into here, then all of a sudden we get a block that looks like this on the top. And rather than sowing seeds into that hole, let me not get ahead of myself, I tuck my mini block into that. But again, let me not get ahead of myself. So let's talk filling these guys. We've got our soil, it's uniformly moist, more moist than we would otherwise. And I first off just tuck it in like this. But they look nice and full. But as soon as I start pressing the soil down in, there's a lot more soil that can go in. So it's really critical that you're getting all of that soil down into the corners, especially with those ones that have the black insert in it. And P.S. by the way, I'm not sure I fully explained. When you buy a soil blocker, it'll come with those little white dimples. You'll have to purchase those square plastic cubes, the inserts, separately so that it integrates with the mini. And they're really easy to screw in and out of just using your hands. But yeah, I'm really pressing lots of soil down in there, and it's important for both, but especially the cubes that have inserts in it, because those edges around the hole are that much more fragile. So I've made it flat on the bottom as well. So then, I don't know if you can hear that. That is a pileated woodpecker. I love them so much. So I'm going to make myself a little room here. And also, it's fun if they are slightly crumbling, you just tuck it in, back into the soil mix. So the learning curve on these is very fun and very forgiving. And they're spring loaded, so they pop right out. And you can see, oh, those woodpeckers get me every time. There is our little dimple on top, and here is our gorgeous one ready to receive the mini blockers that we'll be potting up. And again, they're so nice and dense, I am totally throwing it around. And that is your goal. And if they start to crumble, tuck them right back in. So a little note on the classic dibble size. You can sow any seed you want in here. Sow a big fat nasturtium, sow a little tiny basil seed, and anything in between. And if you don't need to, if it's something like a snapdragon that doesn't want any light, simply sow the seed in and don't close it up. But everybody else, you can simply just pinch like that and you are all set. And just be sure, as always, to label before you are actually sowing so that you can stay on track and stay organized. And another key thing about your soil blocks, you'll want to rinse them off in between each time. As you can see, there's quite a bit of soil in there all around, but if that soil isn't released, it's going to ultimately make less quality soil blocks for me. So I have this bit of water and I'm dunking it putting the spring up and down, really getting all of it out. And you can see, oh, there's a little that is wanting to stay. So I'll tuck it off with my hands, and now you can see how much more clean that is. And that will make a much more clean, solid soil block for the next time. So each time I use it, I dunk it in between. And now I'm excited to share with you about this mini soil blocker. So that we use the mini soil blocker for things that need a little extra heat on the heat mat, a little extra time to germinate. So something like lavender often takes 3 weeks to germinate. Totally takes its time. But when it's sitting right here on a heat mat, which perhaps you can see, we have this flat right on our heat mat. And if that soil block is 2 inches above the heat mat, awesome, it's going to germinate faster than if it wasn't on the heat mat. But if we sow them in a mini block, a 1/4 inch above the heat mat, all of a sudden it germinates in a fraction of the time. So this is an amazing tool, and check it out. A heat mat rather, generally is only about the size of one single cell tray, which is fine, but you can only fit 40 of these large blockers in a cell tray, where you can fit over 200 of these mini blocks in a cell tray. So you totally want to maximize your time, your heat mat space, and use these mini blockers, especially if you're sowing perennials, other flowers, herbs, things like oregano that take their time. And if you're not planning on, you can also sow things like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants into these guys and maximize them that way as well. So yeah, again, we are pressing them into the soil and really being sure that with every single one of those 20, I'm pressing down in and making sure that every little bit is fully full, is fully full of soil. And then they press out into these amazing little soil blockers that also have this little dimple on top that you can sow seeds into. And then I'll sprinkle a little bit of soil on top, and you're off to the races. Anything else about these guys? They are so fun and easy to use, and you'll have them for the rest of your life. They're stainless steel, and I can't recommend them highly enough just for how healthy plants will be when you grow them. And you'll see in the coming weeks, I'll be sharing lots of little videos. As this greenhouse is fully coming to fruition, I'll have things started in egg cartons, yogurt containers, things started in cell trays, and things started in these soil blocks. So you can see side-by-side comparisons of what's going on between them. So I'm excited to share with you all of that as well. And keep in touch. Have fun.